All right, I'm here with Paul right now. Hey, Paul.
Hey, hi, Jared.
Hey, so let's get it going. Let's get it going. I was just listening to your CD in
Huh?
the car when I was doing some errands for the holidays recently, and the CD was a Remember CD.
Yeah.
And for the audience listening, it's I don't know what type of music would you say? Like choir, not choir music, but like it's your voice. You're singing in kind of like a like a church sounding,
Let me tell you the story of how I came to create this inspirational message and the music
yeah.
behind the Remember CD. So I've been on this personal journey, this inner journey, for a long, long time. And one morning in 2004, in October of 2004, I woke up in a fairly grumpy mood, as I was oftentimes did, at that stage in my life. I went down to my computer and I was a little pissed. I was thinking to myself, dang it, I've been trying to work on myself for such a long time, and here I am again in a grumpy mood. If I could just freaking remember the things that I've been studying all this time, I know that I would be healthier and happier. And it occurred to me to ask myself the question, well, if I was going to remember stuff, what is it I would remember? So I started writing things down. Well, I'd remember the power that we all have. I'd remember this beautiful spirit that's within all of us. I'd remember this amazing experience of life and where we are on this planet floating through the solar system. And remember when I was in the timeline of my life and the relationships with others. And gradually, over a period of about 90 days, this 45-minute self-guided meditation kind of developed over time. And it became so meaningful to me that I just knew I had to capture it and share it with other people. It was the first time that I'd found a path back to a higher vibration, back to being in a better mood that was 100% reliable, which means that every single time that I went through this 45-minute meditation, all my stress went away. I was stepped back into my power, stepped back into my love, stepped back into my peacefulness and my wisdom, and really, really raised my vibration. It was just such an incredible blessing to have that magic pill, that thing that I could always, always rely on. I probably listened to it 1,000 times over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. And I only remember 2 times that I had to listen to it more than once,
Wow.
that I was in such a grumpy mood or such a funk that just listening to it once, didn't do the trick, that
Huh.
I had to listen to it a second time, and that time, focus more on the message that I was telling myself. It was, my higher self speaking to my lower self, reminding me of the things that I knew and the wisdom that I had gained, and allowing my vibration to shift back into that experience of my higher self. So that's the story of the Remember CD. It's been a really, really fantastic blessing for me.
Hmm. And the power of remembering.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's one
Yeah.
line in there that I don't know if I can quote it directly, but the most amazing thing of all, if you just remember your higher self, remember that there is a higher self. Remember what it feels like to be in that higher self. You magically and almost immediately begin to shift in that direction. It's that remembering, that imagination of
Hmm.
just imagining, thinking about what would it be like if I were peaceful again? What
Hmm.
would it feel like if I were loving again?
Hmm.
What would that experience be if I were courageous and stepped back into my power again?
Hmm.
It's just that focus, that intention, that imagination, that remembering that allows us to shift our energy.
I actually feel it a bit right now when you were speaking just the past 30 seconds. Like, can you remember? And I remembered, and I felt I could feel like an upsurge of energy, and I did remember. Um, how so how do people, let's say they're in a grumpy mood.
Uh-huh.
Let's say they're stressed out, or maybe even sleep deprived.
Uh-huh.
I could see someone maybe 50% of the time, I don't know, 50% of the time they remember, they feel better. And then
Mhm.
I don't know, another 50% of the time I can imagine them, uh, you
Not
know,
remember.
not like, or even remembering, but not like feeling better.
Not
What
being
about
caught up.
that?
Well,
Or I don't know. How do you deal? So what happens if you remember? I'm just curious. What happens if you remember and like you don't feel better?
then imagine.
Imagine.
That's the key. And I learned that from one of my most powerful and blessed spiritual teachers
Huh.
is is that if you can't feel it, if you can't remember it, then just imagine it.
Huh.
Use the power of your own imagination to say, I imagine what it would feel like if I were more relaxed. I
Huh.
imagine what it would feel like if I were more courageous or stronger. And
Huh.
it is because if you can't remember it, then the next way of focusing your intentions and focusing your attention on that higher experience is through your imagination.
Who was that spiritual teacher? I know you've had something like what, over
30 or so.
20 or 20
Yeah, 20 or 30 over the last 10 or 12 years. Yeah, 15
Wow.
years probably. But the gentleman that I've had for the last 5 years is named Jason Nelson.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what's that look like? What's that kind of conversation look like? You know, you're a spiritual dude. How
Yeah.
does one spiritual guy go up to another one and say, "Hey, you know,
Well, I met Jason and his soon-to-be wife Melissa at a business conference about, I guess maybe 5 or 6 years ago. You know, we really struck it off. We had a great conversation. He was obviously, a cheerful, wise fellow, probably 20 years younger than I am.
huh,
Um, uh, but
interesting." So
you know,
you're working with someone who's younger than you, and
yeah,
he's kind of
let me come back to that here in a second.
sure, sure.
'Cause- but anyway, we struck it off and we developed this relationship. And I said, hey, how about let's just do an exchange of services for the next 90 days, which was one of my favorite tactics and favorite offers to anybody that I met who was spiritually focused, coaches, therapists, counselors, or whatever. I said, how about for the next 90 days, let's just spend a couple hours a week talking with each other. I'll talk to you about my journey and you help me how I can, however you can. And you can talk to me about your business and I'll help you however I can. So it became a trade out of services.
Huh,
Some of those relationships just lasted 90 days. Most of them just lasted 90 days. Some of them went a little longer than that. In Jason's case, it's lasted 5 years.
wow.
So the last 5 years, I've been his business coach and business mentor, helping him do financial models and make decisions about staffing and, focusing on building his coaching business. And he has great big dreams, by the way. He's building a university called the New 3 University, and his website is jasonnelson.info. I give him all the praise and all of the
Huh,
referrals that I possibly can because he's just a marvelous, wonderful dude.
huh.
Anyway, so we did that trade out of services, and it has continued all this time. You
So,
mentioned you started talking about doing, working with people younger than you.
ah, ah,
It took me a while to be able to do that, because there was some resistance. If I'm older than you, I ought to be smarter and wiser than you. There's this subconscious program running in my head that if I'm in the 5th grade and you're in the 3rd grade, there's nothing you should be able to teach me, right?
yeah.
But, as I have gotten older and wiser, as it turns out, most of the people in my world are younger than me.
Yeah, that the math would it would work out that way.
And the wiser I have become, the more I have been able to spot and see the wisdom and the talents of younger men and
Mm,
younger women.
mm.
I have something to learn from somebody who's, in college, or I have something to learn from, like a doctor. If I go to a medical doctor and the medical doctor, is 40 years old or 30 years old and has just graduated from medical school, they could still be a marvelous, marvelous doctor. and be just exactly the perfect person that I need to talk to about my health.
Huh.
And it's really expanded beyond that too. One of my incredibly empowering beliefs is that there are hundreds of thousands of teachers out there. And some of those teachers are old, and some of those teachers are young. Some of those teachers are men, some of those teachers are women. Some of those teachers write books, and some of them just, offer a smile as you pass them on the street.
Huh.
The teachers are everywhere. Jared, you have been my teacher.
Wow, thank you. Thank you.
I honor and respect the wisdom that you have at now, I think, the tender age of 27. Is that right?
Today's actually my Phoenix birthday. So it's the 27th of December on this recording, and my birthday is on December 27th.
Yes, your Phoenix birthday. Now, why do you call it a Phoenix birthday?
Oh, I'm just calling that for fun because I'm turning 27 on the 27th. I don't know why I called it Phoenix, but it's kind of...
Oh, but I really like it. 27 on the 27th.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday.
Yeah.
I would sing to you, but, the court recording here is... Actually, I don't mind singing on recordings, but...
Hey, we can sing. I mean, this is about taking the interview in a kind of a spontaneous direction. I think that might...
Happy birthday. happy. Anyway, that's the story of the Remember CD. That's the story of growing to see the wisdom and the beauty and the contribution that all kinds of people can make to me in my journey. To just through their smile, reminding me what it's like to be happy. Through their courage, reminding me what it's like to be strong. Through their innocence, reminding me what it's like to be humble. There are lessons everywhere and teachers everywhere.
That's really interesting. I'm hearing, from your perspective on younger people being able to teach you, to having other people's smiles remind you of happiness. I'm hearing and the fact that you've had I think what you said, a bunch of coaches over the past years.
Yeah, 20 or 30. Yeah.
20 or 30. Yeah, that's great. I really think that's cool. I think everyone needs a coach, but this I see this openness, willingness, kind of like a willingness to be touched or absorb or something from a bunch of different sources. And I know that was, you've mentioned an empowering belief of yours.
Yeah.
How were you always like that? Did the coach teach you that? How did okay, so you weren't always like that. Then how did that kind of sprout? How did that mindset develop in you?
I don't know. I have no idea. My imagination is that, I was listening to someone who was younger than me by 5 or 10 years and had this awareness of, wow, that was pretty cool. Wow, that's a pretty cool dude. He's younger than me or she's younger than me, but there's something there. I got something to learn from this person. There's a gift there. And gradually over time, being able to recognize the gift that many, many younger people can bring. So
let's dive into this a little bit. I'm just curious, like if you see someone, like how do you normally learn from someone? So you're probably listening or seeing, do you like jot it down on a piece of paper, or do you just kind of like store it in your memory? Do you imagine yourself taking the advice that they're living?
I am a copious note taker. So if I'm sitting at my computer or if I've got a pencil and a piece of paper, I'm taking notes. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One is this imagination, this belief that if I capture the value, that that it's somehow of greater value to me. It's because I can refer to it again and I can remember it more often.
Like if you capture it on like if you write it or whatever.
Yeah. So I journal a lot. The second reason, by the way, I do that is because the mere process of writing it down or typing it in sinks it in, focuses my attention. So, if I'm paying by taking notes, it's very complementary to paying attention and to getting the value out of that. Every once in a while, when I have a client, they don't want me to take notes during the sessions. I've had only 2 out of a couple of hundred or more clients that just flat did not want me to take notes during the session. They just wanted me to sit there with my hands in my lap, and look them in the eye and not take any notes. And I respected that, and I understood that, and as best I possibly could at the end of the session, I recalled and took notes at the end of it so that I could refer to it, before we had the next coaching session or before I had the next interaction with them. But my vast preference is to take notes while we're talking so that I can refer to them and catch me back up. And Paul and his notes are much brighter than just Paul alone.
I think that's probably true of everyone. I know it's true for me. I know that's true for me, but I don't know. We have similar personalities where we're both very creative and probably a little more logical than, a lot of other people, or just more introverted, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. So I can see us being inclined to writing. So.
I'd call that we value our rational mind.
Yeah.
It protects us. It keeps us safe. I'm a smart person. That's part of my self-image and it's part of my self-esteem. It was built around that.
Yeah. So in writing things down too, I know you wrote one book, at least one book. It was A Joy of Awakening that was based on journal entries. I thought that
I've published 2 and written 5 books that were based on the journals that I write. So much like that Remember CD, when I got up in the morning and started writing down the things that were of value to me, after a couple of years, I began to write down other things, insights, poems, messages, songs, and after I got 150 of those, I published a book called The Practice of Awakening. And then 3 years later, I published a second book called The Practice of Awakening 2, The First Light of Joy. The major title of that is The First Light of Joy.
Huh.
I'm in the process of publishing 3 more books. One of them is The Practice of Awakening 3, tentatively titled This Amazing Human Experience. One called A Thinking Man's Guide to Enlightenment. And the third one, and probably the next one to be published, is called Surprises on the Road to Enlightenment.
So enlightenment, awakening, that seems to be like a core concept of, you got 3 books with The Practice of Awakening. What's, I guess, The Practice of Awakening, what's that mean to you? Since you wrote 3 books with the title of, or, 2 right now, and then maybe a third on the way. What's the title mean? I guess what's the title?
Let's talk a little bit about awakening, enlightenment, and consciousness for a second.
Sure, and I'll tell the audience too. I'm coming from a interesting perspective here because I'm well versed in kind of this enlightenment concept from Buddhism, which has this this very kind of it's almost like heaven, right? But at least how it's traditionally perceived, I believe. This like mystical, mythical, place. And then we hear all the Zen teachers and all these other teachers saying, it's right here, it's right now. So we're talking about that, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about those terms: awakening, higher consciousness, mindfulness, enlightenment. Those are really 4 great terms describing states of being. It's more than just a perspective or an attitude or a mindset. It really, I like to think of it as being more expansive than that. That it's really a state of being. It's not just a way of thinking and feeling, but it's kind of a way of existing. Now, one of the surprises on the road to enlightenment is that we all speak separate languages. That what I feel and think when I hear those terms, and whether or not I consider them to be synonymous with each other, that's my language. You, on the other hand, and any of the listeners to this podcast, probably speak a slightly different language. Awakening may mean something different than enlightenment. Mindfulness might mean something different than higher consciousness. If they're Christian, they might think about the salvation experience or being filled with the Spirit. If they listen to Tony Robbins, they might think about it being this beautiful state, or they might think about it being in the flow or in the zone or in the vortex, as Abraham Hicks calls it. Whatever it happens to be, I can think of half a dozen terms or more that describe this way of living life, this state of being, this experience of life, which is dramatically different than anything else. So there is this shadow energy, this lower consciousness, this unconsciousness, this complacency that I think we all go through and return to from time to time. But there is this higher consciousness, this awakening, this shift that allows us to experience life in a much different way. It seems like the whole world is new, like we just woke up to the fact that, oh my God, I'm alive. I have fingers and toes and hands and eyes, and it's just so freaking amazing that I have this human experience. It's this amazement, this wonder, this curiosity, this fascination that is a good sign that you are waking up to the fact that we have this human experience. Enlightenment in the Buddhist sense, and some people use the term awakening in this sense, is a really, really, really high vibrational state. Some people say that you haven't reached enlightenment until you are one with God and divinity, and you feel the connection to all things, and you have all knowledge and awareness is at your fingertips, and you've become omniscient and omnipotent. And it is such an incredibly heightened state that there is no difference between you and God at all, that you are one. I felt that from time to time. I've sensed that in the distance from time to time. I have raised my consciousness, raised my vibration to the sense to where I have awareness in the truth of that experience for some people. But I don't reserve the words awakening and enlightenment, for that one glorious, magnificent state. I think that we awaken to higher and higher levels of consciousness, that we become more and more enlightened all the time. I used to say how grateful I was to be partially enlightened some of the time. And I still feel that way.
So what I really took away from that was whatever you call enlightenment and whatever it means to you, it seems like you're pretty open for different people having different understandings of it. And the one thing would be it's a shift. It's a shift.
It's a shift. It's a dramatically different way of experiencing life, from an awakened state to an unconscious state, from an enlightenment state to a, I'm caught up in my own shit state.
Okay. And then, so whatever that shift is for people, well, I guess we can first talk about, like, does someone need to experience oneness and like perfection in order to have that shift, or can it just be like feeling curiosity too? Is there a difference between, like,
I remember some early times when I felt that shift. I remember way back in 1991, many, many years ago, just having this moment of experience going, oh, I'm alive. I got fingers and toes. What is going on here? That shift. There was no sense of being one with God. It wasn't that level, but there was this dramatic, holy crap, I've been looking down at the ground all of a sudden, and now I just started to look up and see the skies and the trees and the birds. It was a whole nother way of looking at life, of experiencing life. And it was there. I wrote about it. I called it The Miracle of Life. It became one of my early unpublished works. And then a few months later, maybe a year later, I experienced it again. And then a few months later, and then a couple of months later, and then maybe only a month later, and then a week later. And then gradually over time, I began to experience that shift in consciousness more and more often. And then I began to find ways to get back to there. I began to practice awakening, to practice waking up, and practice to shifting my consciousness, and practice to what I first called becoming the angel within. I discovered within myself, and later on I came to discover it within everybody, within you, Jared, within everybody that's listening to this beautiful, loving, peaceful, joyful, powerful, wise, divine presence.
Ah,
And I began to practice awakening to that reality.
ah,
I began to practice shifting my energy. And I wrote the book called The Practice of Awakening,
ah.
because I found that the more that I practiced, the easier it became. You
What's
know,
interesting right now is what I'm experiencing is like, I'm like, on one hand, I can see your eye contact is just like you're
uh-huh.
friggin' certain of this, and I love it. I love it, man. It's like, it's powerful being open to that. Like
Mhm.
for me, I'm trying to be open to that kind of powerful, consistent
Uh-huh.
state of living. But also at the same time, it's a little scary, and I can imagine some of the audience, which might not be as spiritually inclined as me or you, they might be maybe, I don't know. I could see them being slightly skeptical.
Well,
When you
let's
say
choose.
when you say it's being opened, when you say it's just a mind shift, I could see them saying, "Okay, like yeah, that's open to it." Yeah, I could see it's a mind shift. I'm not sure about like the power that you're talking about, but maybe if it's a mind shift, they're open to it. And then maybe I don't know. I could see how do you practice? How do you practice? I guess.
I want to come back to the first one, because if
Sure.
somebody has a resistance in that,
Hmm.
usually it's a matter of language. Is that I
Hmm.
don't know what this means.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's confusing to me. So
Yeah.
we can put this whole experience in very secular terms.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just being in a good mood.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just having a better attitude.
Hmm.
Are the things that you can do every day to be, a little less worried or grumpy.
Hmm.
Can you, relieve your stress in some way? And
Hmm.
the answer is yes, you can.
Hmm.
Sometimes the shift
Hmm.
just means listening to your favorite music, or going on a walk,
I can
or having
remember
a bite
CD.
to eat, or, just saying screw it,
Yeah.
just making the choice that I'm not going to worry about that crap anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to do my stuff. Whatever it is out there, I'm done worrying about it. I'm done worrying about, politics and religion and philosophy and the dude in the cubicle next door.
Huh.
I just choosing for a moment in my own way to let go of that stress and that anxiousness and that shadow energy, and focus on something that's a little more comfortable.
Okay. Here's the question of the day.
Okay.
Is that mind shift, the shift of like, okay, I'm going to not let my cubicle person bother me. I'm not going to let my boss bother me. I'm just going to, let it go, listen to some music, get in a better mood. Is
Yep.
that mind shift equal in value to the big mind shift of like, whoa, holy crap, I'm alive. Like, oh my God, or
Absolutely.
they are equal. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
they're equal in the steps that they are steps on the journey.
Huh.
Equal in the sense that they are steps on the journey.
What's the journey?
Uh,
That's the question, right? That's the question. If these are steps,
there's a great
so
question.
these are equal. So these are. I'm imagining a staircase. One day you take a step and you just get in a little bit better mood, and maybe you do like 10 steps. You listen to music, you release some negative energy, you eat healthy or exercise. You go 10 steps, and then maybe I don't know, randomly or spontaneously, you get this big step every now and then, which is
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I forgot that I was gonna die, and that the world is a pale blue dot in the middle of a black sea of stars in space. And, oh my God, I'm just a little dot on this little dot, and what the hell is oh my
You've
God,
been
I'm
listening to
alive. I
my
can't,
remember.
the carbon dust is forming in my body from the stars,
Yeah.
and my God, I'm conscious, and and then you might have one of those moments on top of the Grand Canyon or whatever, and that's another step forward. But you're talking about something even greater than that.
Yeah, when I talk about journey, I'll first of all, go back to one of the places we started today, is that we all speak a different language.
Hmm.
So when you ask me, what I mean by the journey, you're recognizing that. That's wisdom. When you ask somebody what they mean by that term, it's humble and it's kind and it's wise to ask that question. So when I talk about the journey, I talk about the journey of life. And every once in a while, when I talk about the journey, I talk about, the journey of the soul, imagining that there is a journey of this soul that transcends lifetimes. Some people believe in, the transmigration of the soul. Some people believe in, reincarnation, other people, there are lots of different, systems out there. And by the way, there are many things that I do not know, and that's one of them I do not know. And that's one I do not understand.
You mean
I don't
reincarnation or?
Yeah, I don't have this sense of awareness that transcends this lifetime. I just simply don't have that. I haven't had that experience yet. But I've talked to many people, who have some sense of awareness with that. So most often when I talk about the journey, I talk about this journey of life, from birth to death, from being a baby that's powerless and knows no language, and the only thing that we can do is cry and smile, to being someone that gains language and gains some understanding of mathematics and rational thought, to come to, through the rebellious teenage years and have a sense of self-identity, and grows into greater wisdom, hopefully, every day. I think most people do, by the way, but not everybody does.
Yeah.
And for most people, their journeys can be a slow one. There are some people that I think at some point in time, they stop gaining wisdom at any sort of perceptible rate. They get frozen in time at 25 or 17 or 40, and they essentially give up on a better life experience, and they give up on gaining greater wisdom. And they just, they get stuck at a particular level of complacency or even, discomfort, but they never choose for whatever reason to step out of that. My experience is much different. Your experience is much different. And I trust that almost everybody listening to this, their experience of life will be much different as well. That by focusing on the journey, focusing on achieving a higher vibration, every single day, awakening. I figure I've awakened 50,000 times over the last 15 years. That's only like 3 years. That's only like 10 times a day or something like that for 15 years. 50,000 times I've woken up, to saying, wait a minute, I was tempted to be grumpy. I was tempted to be complacent. I was tempted to be angry. Most of the days, today I experienced temptations. 12 years ago I was freaking grumpy, or I was angry, or that person pissed me.
What temptations did you experience today?
Oh, today have I had any temptations today? I did have a temptation today. I was on my rowing machine this morning, 10 minutes into my row, and the phone rang. And I wanted to, so I had to stop, get off the machine, go answer the phone because I didn't want it to wake up the other people in the house, and it was a wrong number. So I was tempted to feel a little bit somehow put upon, somehow inconvenienced.
Inconvenienced.
Yeah, so I thought, I could go there, but I'm not going there. So I smiled again. I got back on the rowing machine and I finished my ride.
Wait, can you break down that moment right there? Because that's it, right? That's what you're talking about, right? Like that was like the practice of awakening on this journey, right?
Exactly. It was that, the other person on the other end of the telephone, when I answered the phone, spoke a foreign language. And they asked if Mindy was there in English after they had asked it in a foreign language first, I think, but I didn't understand it. But the second time it was English, and I could, can I speak to Mindy? No, I'm sorry, you got the wrong number.
So,
I was tempted for that 2 or 3 seconds to be a little grumpy or angry. So I just started to go there, caught myself and said, nope, not doing that. Chose to be lighthearted again, hang up the phone, chuckled a little bit, jumped back on and finished what I was doing. So
I know I just want to explore this moment right here. I forgot what else we were talking about, but I can this getting caught. I almost want to examine that 2 to 3 seconds of you felt being inconvenienced coming up for 2 to 3 seconds. You caught it somehow, and then you let it go or refocus?
Let it go, refocused, chose to be lighthearted, flipped.
I almost imagine this is slow motion. The Matrix, where he gets shot at a bullet, and then he's and he sees the bullet coming, and he dodges it.
Yeah,
I kind of got that sense when you were talking. Okay, anger or inconvenience is coming up, I'm gonna, I don't know, somehow you transmuted it or let it go or killed that energy, or what happened with that inconvenienced energy? Like the bullet of inconvenience from the phone call is going towards you.
Yeah.
And you see it, you sense it. What happened? I'm curious.
There's a lot of different analogies we can use to, one analogy might be that it dissipated and we let it go.
Sure.
We zapped it. You could look at it and say, I just looked at it with loving eyes and it was gone.
Yeah.
Or we could say that, I dodged it, I let it pass. We
Whatever.
could say, I've talked about this a lot with a lot of people, as you might imagine. What analogies do you use in your mind?
Yeah, interesting.
Experience comes your way.
Interesting.
Some people say I put up my shields and it bounced off.
Yeah.
Other people say I became as the ether and it just passed through me as wind passes through a screen and was gone.
Interesting.
Other people say, I looked at it and it dissipated like a laser beam on a water drop. So I don't know that there's a physical analogy, one physical analogy that is better than any others for it was there, I let go of it, I let it go, it was gone. Okay, so
I want to come back to the journey too. So, okay. So like, how do people, that's catching a negative moment, that's shifting the energy, that's like a mini moment of awakening. And on this big journey of the lifetime, shit, my phone. See, the phone. I'm going to cut this out. One sec. I'm going to catch the anger.
Well, this is hilarious. So now we're going to see how quickly Jared, what physical analogy works for you to kind of let go of that and step back into a lighthearted, cheerful state, to let it go and return to the same vibration or even a little higher vibration than you were before the phone rang. How long is that going to take you?
Man, let's see. I guess I'm feeling a little bit mixed emotions right now. It's really funny that we were just talking about this, and I can totally feel that I'm like laughing because we were just freaking talking about like the phone ringing and then it rings, and I have this opportunity being recorded. At the same time, I'm feeling a little pissed and a little scared that phone is going to ring again, and then I'll have to like, what do I do with the recording? Do I turn it off?
So here's the magic. Here's the magic of awakening.
I gotta remember somehow, right?
So here's one of my empowering beliefs that you know really well is that you will return. You will absolutely return to this cheerful, lighthearted vibration that we were sharing before the phone rang.
Yeah.
The question is, when? Are we going to do it in the next 30 seconds or are we going to do it tomorrow? Do you think you'll be grumpy for the rest of the day about that?
No.
I think so. No freaking way. Too much stuff too much life will be experienced between now and tomorrow morning for you to be grumpy when you wake up tomorrow morning about the phone call that just happened. So at some point in time, you're going to shift your energy back.
Yeah.
So the real question is, when are you going to do that? And what can you do in the meantime to make that shift to be a little bit quicker?
Yeah.
Okay, do we need to wait until after we finish talking and you can put on some music? Do you need to just let it dissipate over time? Sometimes those things just kind of quiet down like a storm that passes.
Yeah.
And then it's, you feel the smell in the air, and you start to feel the electricity in the air, and you hear the rumble of the storm, and then you see the lightning, and then you feel the rain and the wind and whatever, and then gradually over time it may rumble and rain like hell and lightning flashing for a long time, but after a few hours that storm was going to pass. Even the worst storms, the hurricanes, after a few days, they pass
Wow.
and it goes away. And the wind
Something
blows
is
out.
coming up where most of it is gone. Like
Good.
I felt my body was a little tense. And now it's less tense. I got a jolt of fear through me when that phone
Yeah.
rang.
Yeah.
But there's a little sliver. There's a little sliver of something negative
There's a
where
half-life there.
I'm scared that phone is going to ring again.
Yeah.
And I
So
feel like our audience probably can relate to that experience where they are, they've mostly let something go, like an argument or I don't know, something stressful at work
yeah.
or
Amen.
something in their past where they mostly let it go and mostly they're okay. But there's this dang sliver
Yeah.
that bothers them and they can't freaking get it out.
And sometimes those
I don't
slivers
know. I don't know. Just being stuck with that freaking sliver and like no matter what, no matter how much remembering or practicing they do, they have this little sliver.
Yeah, for a while. And everybody has a little baseline anxiety.
Mhm,
Some people we know are very, very anxious.
mhm.
They're easily triggered. They're worried. They're stressed out. They're negative most of the time. They have what I call a very high baseline anxiety.
Yeah,
Other people just have, they're more like a Labrador retriever than an angry Chihuahua.
yeah.
They're very, very mellow.
Mm,
Hardly anything upsets them. They
mm,
don't get worried about doodly.
mm.
They're very, very, very mellow. My experience with my own life was that as I practiced that awakening, that this baseline anxiety got lower and lower and lower and lower and lower to
Mm,
where I'm a pretty mellow, even keeled guy today that very,
mm.
very few things bother me and upset me.
Yeah.
Those little slivers of residual,
Huh.
go down and they're like, sawdust on the floor instead of a pile of wood in the
What would like for the audience listening and watching, they might see you as like this, really enlightened dude, but it
Mhm.
sounded like right there when using your hand gestures, it seemed like you used to be more anxious.
Oh, I used to be very anxious, very, very angry, very sarcastic, very cynical. The way that I protected myself when I was a young man was by being an asshole.
Mm.
I was a jerk. I was the guy that was always grumpy and always, you got to watch out for Paul because he'll cut you down with his words.
Mm.
I,
Yeah.
so, and by the way, that didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, me neither.
Not a bit. Um, Although it was kind of funny,
Yeah.
little bit on the humorous side.
Yeah, yeah.
But I used to be that way. I used to be very anxious and angry and very unhappy and very stressed out.
Mm.
Very, very stressed out. Didn't have any girlfriends, didn't
Mm.
have many friends at all
Mm.
because I was just too caught up in my own crap.
Mm.
And then, I learned to meditate and I learned to relax. I learned to practice shifting my energy.
What age was this at? I find it 19?
19.
19. You know that for sure?
Yeah,
What
I,
happened? Like, was there a moment at 19?
there was.
Oh.
There
What
was a
happened?
moment. There was a day,
What's the
actually.
moment?
It was more of like a weekend.
A
I
weekend.
was going to college in Oklahoma, in a small town. I went to Denver, Colorado, with one of my roommates to visit some friends of his, people I'd never met before. He asked if I wanted to tag along. And for whatever reason, I just chose to be a really nice person. I actually think I do know the reason. I think I thought that they might have some pot or some beers. And if I
Mm.
was a really nice guy, that they'd let me smoke a little.
Mm.
Seriously, I think that was the reason. That
Mm.
I was on my very best behavior, offering to help, do the dishes, clean up after this, being cheerful, just being, as friendly and as nice and as helpful person as I could possibly be. Well, as it turns out, they didn't have any.
Oh.
They have, but
Mm.
I got caught up in that moment of being a friendly, nice, easygoing person, which was dramatically different than the sarcastic, cynical, bitter, angry person that I was most of the time.
Huh.
And at the end of the trip to Colorado, they said, come back and see us anytime you want. It was great to meet you. You're a cool guy. And it felt so good to me. It's like, that's the person I want to be all the time. I want to be that guy. I want to be the friendly guy, the cheerful guy, the person that people love to see walk through the door.
Yeah.
And I switched, I began to put my focus on that. I want to be a loving, kind, happy, wise person.
Huh.
And I've been working on that. I still am working on that every single day. Now the words have changed a little bit, but the vision of being my higher self, of stepping into that higher vibration for a few moments and realizing that there's a potential that with practice, I can be in that state more and more and more often. That's been my journey. That's been my practice.
Huh. So practice. What do you like? Kind of like someone practices dribbling for basketball, or I don't know, running if they're a runner. That's what you mean? Practice.
I do. That's exactly what I mean. We practice remembering, imagining what it's like to be in that higher vibration. That higher consciousness, that mindfulness, that awakenment, that enlightened experience of life.
So practice.
We move back into it.
Interesting. I like the word practice. Practice is a good word because it kind of means like you try, but it's not like if you don't. It's not a performance. Like if I'm practicing piano and I make a mistake, it's okay, right?
Yeah, except
if I'm in a performance, then like that's kind of embarrassing.
Except for we can use that term, and I like to use the term as in practicing a profession, like we practice law or we practice medicine. So in that sense, the word of a practice, it comes to, we've learned enough to now we actually perform at that level.
Interesting.
So I like that connotation on the word practice as well.
Okay.
So the practice of awakening to me means those two things.
Okay.
It means that we practice shifting our energy and awakening again. But it also means that we are professional at being an awakened person.
Interesting. Wow, that's helpful for me, actually. I come from this Zen tradition, and in there they have this saying like practice enlightenment, practice dash enlightenment, where the two are one and the same. And the context was always more of like practicing piano, and if you make a mistake, it's okay to like get back on, and no one's listening. You just keep practicing. But I like this other connotation of practicing, like full time, every day. If someone's listening and they're inspired and they want to become like a full-time practitioner, I mean, I understand you can practice awakening, just shifting your energy day by day. So they might be a lawyer, an engineer, a data scientist, a manager, whatever, and they're inspired to practice shifting their energy in small and great ways full time. And they wanted to have a conversation with you about it. Like, where does that start? What would you tell them? What would you tell them? Like,
if they want to have a conversation with me, just go to paulhoyt.com and check me out. And what you'll see there mostly is my other life, as a business coach and a business consultant, because I've been doing that for the last 16 years or so as well. So that's primarily my profession today, is as a business coach and a business consultant. But over time, more and more, I'm getting to be more of a personal coach and a spiritual teacher. And I have clients. I would say 70 or 80% of my clients are business clients, but some growing number of clients are spiritual coaching or personal coaching clients. So I'm happy to talk to them about any and all those things. Just go to paulhoyt.com. You can see my phone numbers and my contact information there, and send me an email, reach out, and let's have a conversation.
Awesome. What's your before we kind of wrap up today's interview? Uh, what is your, how do you hack emotional intelligence, or how do you hack this practice of awakening? How do you, what's your favorite thing to do? I guess it's probably the Remember CD, or, maybe not anymore. I don't know. How
No,
do you
it's
get
really
back to
not. I
it?
haven't. I listened to it last summer for the first time in years,
Yeah.
and I was blown away by it. By the way, just because the energy that I put into it 10 years ago, 12 years ago now,
Yeah.
whenever I created out, it was, in the moments that I had created that message, and the moments where I created the CD, I was at a very high vibration.
Mm.
Now I'm at that same high vibration more often,
Mm.
and at that even higher vibration than I was back then, because that's the journey. We
Yeah.
raise our average vibration over time through the sense of a practice. So for those of you who say, what could your practice be? I always recommend that you start out with a daily practice of something that you do first thing in the morning,
Mm.
and something that you do last thing at night, to refocus your attention and your intention on raising your average vibration over time. It could start out with, reviewing a list of all the things that you have to be grateful for in the morning.
Mm.
It could be, an honest reflection late at night about the times when you showed up the way you wanted to show up, and of the times that you didn't,
Mm.
of the things that bothered you, and of the things that triggered your happiness.
Mm.
Just that, but do it, and do it on a consistent basis.
Mm.
Every single day, every morning when you wake up, every evening just before you retire. Turn your mind and your attention towards the power that you have to practice your own awakening and raise your higher vibration over time.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. What if someone is terrible with consistency?
There's things that you can do to overcome that.
Mm.
Choose to experience inspired resourcefulness.
Mm.
You can get a partner.
Yeah.
If you're having problems in the morning, then grab yourself a partner. Maybe they're having problems in the morning, but together, the two of you together, talking to each other every day,
Mm.
at 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to have a phone call with my partner, and we're just going to remind each other of the power we have to make great choices throughout the day. You
I
can
love
do that. There are many programs, apps that you can get on your smartphone
it. Mm.
that will ring an alarm, that will give you an inspirational message every single day.
Mm.
There are lots of things that you can do. If you have problems with consistency, you've had problems remembering the power that you have to shift your energy gradually higher over time, then deal with it. You'll get yourself a coach. Find ways to overcome that lack of consistency and build up the habit of the practice of awakening.
Yeah.
Don't just say, I can't do that, I can't control myself, because that's BS. There's always things that you can do to change your habits and to improve your consistency, and to improve the quality of your practice.
Yeah, I know we're wrapping up soon, but I did want to, what you said right there reminded me of this other concept that you've used before, where someone might be saying, I can't do this. And you've talked about like prisoner energy and
Yeah.
victim energy. And I can imagine some people feeling like they can't change that.
Yeah.
That they're stuck, that they truly are truly stuck. And in this, at least in the visual diagram that I'm thinking of, is like that type of thinking is kind of at the bottom.
Yeah.
Maybe even the majority of this world is kind of stuck in a similar mentality of, I'm stuck, I'm stressed, or blah, life is out to get me. But in this diagram, that was actually part of the journey. And I think that is so important for people to realize, if they're feeling stuck, that is part of their journey. It's bottom, but then like you got to go from the bottom to get higher. The higher vibrations being like, what was it, like warrior, and then going up to like, you mentioned angel or something like that. What are those? Yeah, are those like literal energies, or are they kind of?
No.
I guess it's metaphors. Yeah, it's
my language. It's my language on
Yeah.
Shadow energy on what I call the pit of darkness, extremely low, very uncomfortable, highly stressed vibrations, and my language around the higher vibrations, the enlightened, awakened, loving, peaceful, joyful energy that we can also experience. The 6 levels of consciousness that I talk about are victim energy, prisoner energy, warrior energy, seeker energy, master energy, and angel energy, in that order. The lowest being victim, where one feels powerless, feels abused and punished. When you find somebody in that place, or you find yourself in that place, the key to shifting your energy is to remind yourself that you're not powerless, that you're not incredibly weak, that you're in a bad place. You might even be trapped momentarily in that bad place, and shift that energy upward from victim energy to prisoner energy. And then if you find yourself feeling like, I'm in a bad place and I'm trapped, you remind yourself that you are not powerless, that you have a warrior's power within you, that you can step out in courage and do things to change your future, that you're not completely trapped, that you have the power to step into a different experience, that you can leave that job, leave that relationship, get that degree, do whatever you can do, but apply the energy that you have to stepping out of the situation you're in, and step out of the prisoner energy and into the warrior energy. Most people get trapped in the warrior energy. And to let go of that warrior energy is to have trust and acceptance, is to have humble seeking of higher and greater wisdom. We step out of the warrior into the seeker energy. And then from the seeker, we realize the power that we have to love and to change and to grow. And we step into the master energy. And eventually we even transcend that into what I call the angel energy. So if somebody finds themselves feeling a little grumpy, feeling a little bit put upon, feeling a little bit powerless, my message to you is that you have greatness within you. You have greatness within you. You just have forgotten it for a little while. Let me remind you that it is there. You will discover it again, I know, through your memory or through your imagination. And you can gradually shift your energy higher and higher over time. There's nothing that I have experienced that other people cannot experience. And my really fervent wish for people of any age is that they get to experience it more and more and more often. I'd love to see everyone in the world enlightened by the time they were 30 years old. It didn't happen. Took me a little bit longer than that, but I will hold the space that other people are far more capable than I was.
Awesome. And so people can reach you at Paul Hoyt.
PaulHoyt.com. It's the best place.
PaulHoyt.com.
Yes.
PaulHoyt.com. Awesome, Paul. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate this. This was quite a serendipitous moment. I didn't know that we were going to do this when you scheduled the time.
Phone calls, that was crazy, man. That was crazy. Thanks for. I'm feeling really calm now about it too. I feel like I learned something. Just one step at a time. One step at a time.
Yeah.
Keep imagining and I feel it at a deep level. The words aren't quite coming out the way I want them to, but anyways, thank you for your time.
Well, it's always a blessing to share the beauty of the spirit with other people. In that sharing, we allow that energy to flow into us and through us out into the world. And that's an incredible blessing. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about my favorite subject, the power of awakening, higher consciousness, enlightenment, and mindfulness. Blessings to you, my friend, and to everybody.
Cool.